2022 was the first time in decades we saw the number of rate increases that we were experiencing courtesy of the stimulus for COVID. As a result, we set a very valid goal for our new money growth. At the mid-year point, we were at 11% of that goal. So we put 5 campaigns in motion. They set off on July 1st, and at the end of July, I mentioned in June we did $330,000 in new money. We did $5.2 million in July. And we did that using Alkami marketing and data. In 2022 was $21.6 million in new money, and we ended the year with 21.8. Our goal for 2023 went up to $40 million, and we were at March 23rd at $28.6 million. I attribute the great success of the program in being able to target our members that had money elsewhere, and then being able to provide the front line with that information. Pulled the information out of Alkami marketing and data services, so we were able to frontline those referral opportunities. So when our frontline, when we've got someone there, if they like, oh, you qualify for this, they can have that conversation. You're in our CD, we've got this great special. The other 50% were lists that were loaded in the front line, and the front line was actively having a conversation with every member, but it was utilizing the data. So it wasn't just, hey, you should know about this. It was, you qualify for this great rate. The Alkami data marketing helps you identify those members that appear to have low balances, but other stuff elsewhere. They have other relationships elsewhere. And don't assume there's nothing elsewhere based on the fact it's a low balance. Take a look at what they're doing through that checking account, and you learn a lot about a person if they like pets, if they drink coffee, if they have investments elsewhere. From a marketing standpoint, I was excited. Every year I set sales goals. And our contact center is like, hey, we want to be involved in those sales goals too. We think when we have conversations, we can bring in at least $1 million. And they thought that $1 million was a stretch. They hit the $1 million before the first quarter was even done. And also work with your staff. Be prepared to tell them the why. Initially, I pulled a list for I had a list pulled for a new investment rep. And these are members, 3,500 of them, that have investments elsewhere. We see money going to Raymond James. We see money going to Charles Schwab. And at first he questioned the list. I'm like, don't question the data, just make the call. And don't say, hey, I see you have money at Charles Schwab. It's more of a care call. Hi, I'm an investment rep for my Ideal Credit Union. I just wanted to give you a call and see how you're doing and see if I can help you. He used that approach. He's gotten some nice pieces of business. So take a chance on the list and see if it works.
Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Allison Sarah, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Alkami. And today we're here to talk about all things marketing when it comes to driving revenue and engagement for your financial institution. And I'm so delighted because I have 3 exceptional speakers with us today to have the conversation. First up is Alicia Johnson, who is the Chief Growth Officer at Ideal Credit Union and is an industry-leading marketing, sales, and operations executive in financial services. Ideal Credit Union, named by Forbes as one of the best in-state credit unions in 22 and 23, is ranked among the top 10 credit unions by assets in Minnesota, with 6 branches across the Twin Cities, 52,000 members, and over $1 billion in assets. Welcome, Alicia. We are so glad to have you with us here today.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
You're looking great in that office.
It's raining really hard outside, but it's beautiful inside.
Beautiful inside. That's what matters. Kayla Keys is up next. She's the Vice President, Retail Sales Manager for I&B in Springfield, Illinois, and has over 20 years of financial industry expertise. Kayla is responsible for overseeing the sales culture and its implementation across a branch network of 13 locations for I&B. Her management and strategic skills have contributed significantly to I&B's growth, with a current asset size of over $2 billion. Nearly 6 years ago, Kayla took on the role of project manager for the Alkami data platform at I&B, where her expertise has been instrumental in its integration with the CSI core banking platform. Collaboration and innovation are at the core of Kayla's work as she closely partners with the marketing department to drive success. Kayla, it is so great to see you here today with us.
Thanks, Allison. Happy to be here.
And last but certainly not least is Ben Udell, who is the Senior Vice President of Client Experience at Lake Ridge Bank and has more than 25 years of banking expertise and is the driving force behind future-proofing the institution. As a leader in digital transformation, he enjoys working where technology, banking, and consumer intersect. His area of focus includes digital and in-person client experiences, marketing, consumer products, analytics, and more. And he's never afraid to be disruptive since this allows him to find innovative ways to improve the client and associate experience. Ben, we couldn't be happier to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Allison. Happy to be here.
We're going to have like a little bit of group therapy among all the marketers around the table today with us. So we're just super excited and we want you to be part of this conversation with us. So please, if you have a question, a comment, something that you agree with, something you respectfully disagree with, please let us know. Sound off in the chat. We're here with you. And we'd love to get your comments and questions throughout. We're going to start with just a little bit of stage setting to kind of help set the context of the conversation based on research that Alkami has done in this area. And it's something we call the marketer's dilemma. Yes. When we do our research and talk to digital banking consumers, 58% of consumers say that using data to make relevant product recommendations is important to them. But yet, when we ask regional and community financial institutions to grade their paper on how well they do that, only about 29% of banks and credit unions, regionally and credit unions, say that they're good at this. And we want to dig deeper on that and to 26 marketers at financial institutions and regional banks and community credit unions to ask this question: why is this so hard to do? And we see four key themes that keep emerging from the conversation. One is it's really hard to unlock the value of the data that the FI uniquely possesses. There's a ton of data in the financial institution. It's a treasure trove of insights. But the problem is harnessing, unlocking its power, activating it, super difficult to go do because it exists in siloed architectures today that just aren't easy to get into. The second is making the technology easy to use. We talked to so many marketers who said, look, I was promised something in the sales process around some MarTech technology that was going to solve all my problems. Lo and behold, I go to actually use it and it's either difficult to implement, integrate, and or use. So we've got to make it easy for marketers to actually use this day to day. The third is managing compliance. We heard this over and over in that FIs sit in a really unique spot of being highly regulated and having to deal with things like compliance concerns. So whereas other industries might use the benefit of demographics to inform how they segment their base and how they cut data, that is not an option for financial institutions who are trying to maintain compliance requirements. And last but not least, and this was the biggest one, was proving the ROI. And what we heard over and over again is we need one version of the truth in the financial institution. And all too often, marketers go into the board or go to their president or the C-levels saying, here's what we've done, here's what we've generated. And lo and behold, they get challenged or criticized about the data itself. And now they're on their heels trying to justify what they've done because there isn't one version of the truth the CFO, the COO, the president, and so on can agree to. So those were some of the common themes that we heard just to set the stage here. Now, Alicia, we started this broadcast here with your wonderful targeted marketing success story. Can you share some other examples of how you've used personalization to build relationships and growth?
Yes, definitely. One of the things that you mentioned in your earlier slide is it's so very true. Prior to having access to the Alkami marketing and data solution, we tried using our database and our warehouse to pull some of this information. And we would get a hold of it, but we were always pulling lists. It was a day and time, and then we'd have to push the information out. So we were really excited in 2021 when we signed the contract and we began to use the product. And they really hit home with me when they talked about the data cleansing, because there are so many different ways that, for example, I work for Ideal Credit Union. We compete pretty actively with Wells Fargo. So I can go into my warehouse and try to find loan payments that are going to Wells Fargo, but it's not just in the transaction string. It's not just in one place. So by being able to access the cleansed data easily, we saw great success. So in 2021, when we launched the program, we focused on a lot of loan campaigns, as you can see from the slide. We focused on mortgages, credit cards, and vehicle financing. And we made some assumptions prior to the KLIs being introduced to us that perhaps a mortgage payment was a payment that was leaving our credit union on a consistent basis monthly, and it was over $1,500. Opposite, under $1,500. Now it's close. Some vehicle payments are around $1,500, but prior to today in 2021, in the lower rate environment on the lending side, we were able to access vehicle financing. So we were able to try to get the right message to the right member at the right time. And we did that using email. We also would use interstitials, but none of it was automated. So we were very, very excited with the product that we began to use because we can turn these programs on and they will continue to run, which is really exciting. It's not just a one month in time using your MCIF. We pull a date and this is my list for the month and that's all I have. This happens every day. So I may not qualify for this campaign today, but if I did a trial deposit at Capital One to move my money into their high yield savings account and vice versa, I'm going to show up in that KLI tomorrow. And that's really important to note because our members are making decisions every single day. And this gives us the opportunity to market to them every single day. So it's really exciting. But we've used this program both in 21 and then again, 22, 23 ongoing. Initially, we used it to focus on loan growth, but now we've used it to leverage the opportunities on our deposit growth. And we've seen great success. In preparation for today's session, I was looking at our segment results, looking back a week, looking back a month, looking back a year. And it's great to see the different campaigns that are working. It's great to see the dollars that are coming in. And it's also great to be able to walk into our CFO's office and use the real-time information to make some decisions. We're losing money to these financials. These financials, we need to take a look at our pricing, for example. So let's see who we're competing with. Where are our members sending their dollars and what do we need to do differently? We have pricing models. We don't use a dartboard when creating our pricing, but it is important to note what your competitors are doing and who our members are sending their dollars to. So using this system in real time has been exciting, and it's also been very beneficial to our organization from a growth standpoint. In the video, I mentioned how our deposits weren't growing in the summer of 2022 and how they exploded after we started to use the data that we had available to us in Alkami Marketing Data Solutions. It's been exciting ever since. I think I shared in the video our goal for this year was $40 million in new dollars. We've achieved 80 million. We've got 3 months left in the year. And our challenges continue because we need to retain the dollars. And that's why I'm taking a look at, while we've got the new dollars coming in, I can use this system to be able to say where else the outflow is. Trial deposits is something that was released and that we're already beginning to use for the trial deposits that are going to Charles Schwab. We're immediately using an interstitial to send messaging to our wealth advisors and introduce that team. But the same is true as dollars are going out to other financials and it looks like we're losing deposits. We're using this channel to bring those deposits back. So this real-time marketing in an automated manner and then being able to use the interstitial and the banner and the outgoing email is really exciting. And it's marketing has changed a lot in my 34 years, but this is exciting. It is really exciting to be able to use this technology and again, to get that right message to the right member at the right time.
Alicia, that's awesome. First of all, congratulations on those results and congratulations for being a pioneer in adopting the technology like this. And we mentioned KLIs just for the audience's benefit. That stands for Key Lifestyle Indicators, which are essentially behavioral indicators that we have used 15 plus years of machine learning to understand, codify the data and understand, as you're seeing on the screen, what are the segments of your population without using things like demographics to do so, but using behaviors and that data. So Alicia, congratulations, because Ideal is literally on fire with it, and that's awesome to see. Kayla, I want to switch to you if we can. Let's talk about one of your successful campaigns and one of the biggest wins you've had using transaction data and applying it to a marketing campaign.
Sure, and I love sharing this story about this campaign because it really does showcase not only the uniqueness, but also the versatility and the power of the Alkami platform. One of our best performing campaigns is actually threefold. all using data from the platform to promote an exclusive offer to our customers who use our bank for both mortgages and checking accounts. So the first thing we did, we set up a targeted audience of our mortgage-only customers, meaning they had only a mortgage product and no checking account. We exported the list and we set it up as a phone campaign with our retail relationship banker staff. The second thing we did, we set up 2 different digital ad campaigns through the platform to run alongside the branch sales efforts. So these ads ran both on the open internet and on our website. The third thing we did, with the help of our core provider, we integrated the Alkami data into our core so that when our staff inquired on a particular customer, they were able to see their specific preferences, their competitive products and services, which helped tremendously in the call planning aspect of the campaign and really helped our bankers tailor their approach and develop discovery questions using that specific data. We ran this campaign for a solid 2 years. In that time, over 600 who saw the ad or received a phone call opened a checking account. And those 600 checking accounts came with a face value of over $4 million. So all in all, it was a really successful campaign for us. We were really proud of the work that we did, really proud of our retail staff and our marketing staff. So it worked out really well.
Kayla, thank you. And you and Alicia are both touching on kind of common themes here, which is how do you identify the right target? How do you intercept them with the right message? And then how do you show and prove the results back to proving that ROI? As you think back on your digital journey, what was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome with this campaign? And how did you actually overcome that?
Well, with this campaign specifically, the real obstacle we had was training our retail banker staff on the outbound calling portion. But through the guided call plans and a lot of training, we were able to accomplish that part fairly quickly. In general, though, with our digital journey and the use of Alkami's data marketing platform, I'd say overall it was just that the amount of data points you get can be a little overwhelming initially. But our relationship manager has been so attentive and really committed to our success. She was instrumental in helping us understand the platform and how to tailor it to our needs. And so I can say, honestly, Alkami's been one of the best vendors we've ever worked with from that aspect. But one other thing we did was promote one of our retail bankers that showed a lot of interest and a lot of knowledge in Microsoft Excel, in data, and in our core system overall to a data analyst and a CRM coordinator to assist us and be that bridge between the sales departments and our marketing team. She really knows all of our products and services really well as all the data that's available within our core. So she was also very instrumental from that aspect as well.
Kayla, that's awesome, because this isn't just about technology transformation. You need the cultural transformation behind it. So having that intermediary that you all identified to make sure that it wasn't just technology that was interesting, but not very relevant, that's huge. So thank you for sharing that insight. Ben, definitely want to bring you into the conversation here. What about you? What obstacles, challenges, learnings have you seen being a change agent for your institution? What are some of the obstacles you've had to overcome in being the change agent here, and the lessons you've learned that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, it's a great question, Allison. And I think the first one is obvious, and I have a second one that's less obvious. The obvious one is the ability to move forward and working with decision makers and stakeholders. And I think this is filled with a lot of paradoxes, for lack of a better word. Everybody you talk to is going to say, yes, you need to be more digitally focused. But then when you want to move forward with a system that's more digitally focused, they're like, wait a minute, what's this really going to mean? We all want to understand the real return on our investment, but then we're doing a lot of marketing activities where we have no idea if there's actually any real return on the investment. And so my guidance on that cost conversation is when you start thinking through all of the ways you're currently marketing and trying to connect with clients, I am absolutely sure that everybody listening has ways that they cannot quantify a real impact. And if you start pulling those dollars out, that starts to make this really important case to say we need to move towards stronger digital tools to connect with our clients. Two great examples of that. The first is when you think of the direct mail that many of us are still doing, if you're using maybe the older school system of, I'm going to run it through a database and I'm going to put it into Excel and I'm going to have this broad scattershot approach to our clients who have mortgages but don't have a home equity, that's a really wide net we're casting, and we can start trimming that down to save some money. And oh, by the way, we can be more targeted with digital data once we implement a system. And then I think the other piece is we still do a lot of a lot of analog marketing within newspaper and print and flyers, and we have zero idea how much of that really impacts our bottom line, right? So we take all of those costs that we don't know what we get for return and we don't know the true relevancy to clients, we allocate that money into digital marketing that's much more specific, hyper relevant, with really real-time results. And that's a really powerful statement that we have to help people understand. And the second obstacle is, so now you've implemented the system, I think we take for granted the language that we are using. Because if we take a step back, we've got a marketing team, we might have a CFO, we might have an analyst under him or her, we probably have a core provider, we have somebody in retail that's probably got to help out, we've got different levels of marketing individuals, we've got IT that we've got to help. And so what I think we've found is that as we have all of these discussions, the language, the terminology can be very different, or they don't understand it. And what that I think has done is at first it was a way that really held us back from moving forward faster. And then once we kind of had this moment of, oh, we got to get everybody on the same page for how we define it, what we're trying to accomplish. That was a big learning, I think, for us to move us faster. And this was not an Alkami vendor, but one of the vendors said one time, don't worry about it. We've got a decoder ring that's going to help you with all of this. So then we kept asking, like, what's this decoder ring? What does this look like? And IT's like, what do we have to do for this decoder ring? And nobody understood it. We had all these back and forths. And then finally it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, you basically mean we're going to merge two databases with a primary key off of social security number or client ID from the core? Done. Like, I spent so much time and energy trying to figure out what this decoder ring was. And it was simple database management. But I would also add, a lot of people in this chain didn't understand that database management. They didn't have the language. And so that didn't help us either. And so I think those are hopefully two big things that help get you off the ground and into a product like this to really then accelerate and get stronger results.
I love that, Ben. The decoder ring, that's a new one. But
Yeah.
so I heard like two things in your topic there, both great insights. One is, how do you shift the balance from maybe more analog media to digital media to, one, make your analog media work harder for you by being much more targeted and prescriptive, and also to, two, put more of the weight potentially behind digital media where you can measure the return on investment. And secondly, making sure you have a common language across all the stakeholders of the business. And obviously we deal with IT all the time. So it's important that we understand each other's language. So I appreciate you mentioning both of those really salient points. Kayla, thoughts on that in the way of your campaigns, and what other things that you've been doing that you can maybe pile on to what Ben was saying, or even add some other thoughts of your own there?
No, I completely agree with what Ben said. You know, it really just goes back to, it's just that audience just always changing, not having to handle it. You set it, you forget it until you need to change some creative or messaging. But it has just been amazing in that aspect.
That's awesome. Set it and forget it. I haven't heard that since Mr. Ron Popeil's Showtime Rotisserie Grill. Girl, thank you for that. I do remember Ron Popeil. If you don't know Ron Popeil, Google him, and Google set it and forget it. You'll see. Alicia, I want to get your thoughts here. How has marketing transformed with this kind of technology?
Yes, I did want to share with Ben, like this growth that we have seen, we have not used newspaper, TV, or radio. Our advertising has been primarily, we are still doing some direct mail, postcards, especially when it comes to we've got a prospect list. So we're trying to grow in that regard, but we have very much leveraged the system. So we were using it. One of our big fears, I mentioned our CFO, you work in tandem with your CFO every day. And they are always, rightfully so, very concerned about disintermediation or cannibalization of your current dollars. Your 0.05% savings, it costs a lot of money, and it has a big impact on your organization when you transition those accounts to 5%. So with that in mind, what we tried to do is target members that had dollars going elsewhere, members that had low to no balances in our credit union, but we were seeing activity within that checking account going to other financials. So we knew they had dollars elsewhere, and that was initially who we primarily targeted for growth. And we saw that growth, but one of the other things that we saw, as I mentioned, I may have alluded to it, to be clear, while we have seen great success in new money, we also saw a lot of money leaving our organization. So our growth is at 1% to 2%, which is considerably less than we've seen in years past, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. We've seen a great deal of growth. This year, we were pleased to see the 1% to 2%, but it wasn't enough. We need to know where those dollars are going, and we needed to stop the disintermediation. We needed to stop the dollars leaving our organization, and Alkami has assisted us in that endeavor. I can see where those dollars are going. I see things going to Treasury Direct. 3 years ago, on average, we had $83,000 a month go to Treasury Direct. In 2023, we're seeing about $450,000 a month go to Treasury Direct. So being able to identify that and being able to look at the tiers, work with your ALCO, and update your product line focused on retention in addition to growth. We never had access to this information before. We had to make a lot of assumptions. Now we're able to be a lot more targeted in our approach. We're still concerned about disintermediation, but we also are changing our products and our pricing in order to retain what we have. So it's been a very exciting process over the last 2 years, and it's amazing that 2021 was record-setting loan growth for us, and 2022 was we need to gather deposits, and we need to be very, very consistent and conscious about what we're doing. And I don't know that we would be as successful as we have been without the system assisting us along the ride.
Yeah, and maybe a hot tip to help a lot of the marketers on here that are not kind of either deep into ALCO or deep in with the CFO is there's this term called marginal cost of funds, and that's what the CFOs want to know about. And the gist is you could put this 5% rate out there, and if it's all new money, that marginal cost of funds is not high. But like Alicia said, if we start moving low rate clients to this high rate, that completely blows our marginal cost funds out of water. And so that's this hot tip. If you're talking to your CFO or your ALCO team, and if you do a little research on that, it's gonna help. And I think the way that this gets applied, how, in some ways, Alicia's brought up really great ideas on how to target it, but you might just simply go out and say, anybody that I know has a banking relationship elsewhere, I'm going to hit them up with, this CD special, the high yield savings special, whatever. And if you can put that into your marketing tech stack where they don't have deposits with you already, or they only have checking deposits, a lot of that new money, you're not really cannibalizing everything. And that's the power of pulling all of this together to be real hyper targeted.
You know what I'm loving in this panel conversation is the way that we're having this conversation in the first place. The language that we're using is the language of the business. Mm-hmm. We're talking about things like what is the face value of the campaign? What is the ROI of the campaign? How many members did we take from another institution or another provider? This is the language in the boardroom or in the C-suite that marketers crave to have. And historically, while we've had that interest and that desire and the aptitude to have it, we've been left wanting more when it comes to the technology stack and the tools to help us have these conversations because we are business leaders in the firm. So this is really refreshing to hear. Our data shows, for what it's worth, when we talk about proving it, we can show that our average financial institution sees a 13 times ROI on campaigns that they're running. That is their data, not ours. So as you use this tool, you actually can go in and put in what are your objectives for the campaign? How much is something worth, like a loan or a deposit? What is the face value of that? How long do you want to count the conversion? So I don't want to count a conversion 9 months from today. I want to count a conversion within 60 days of seeing the impression. that is what you get to decide as a marketer, working with your joint owners of the business to say, what does success look like and how do we want to measure it? And then the tool measures it for you so that you can go back into the boardroom with that common version of the truth and the expectations you've already established of what good looks like, to say, we either accomplished the goal or we didn't. So I truly love the conversation, and the leaders on this call just represent being the change agents that you are. Kayla, I want to bring you into this. How has it affected your team's ability to adapt on the spot, modify campaigns, change the pace of what you're doing, see results? What have you seen just change as a result of how your marketing team is able to perform?
Well, I mean, if our team doesn't see many impressions, we pivot. We're able to quickly change the message or the creative that we're using to garner more traction, or we make adjustments to the audience set that we have. It really is valuable to see the effectiveness of the messaging or the ad display almost right away. So that has been invaluable to us. Our relationship manager with Alkami has been instrumental in keeping us informed. She gives us good suggestions on how to build out our campaigns, but she also gives us a good perspective from the consumer side of things too. So that's always been great, but just being more nimble, right, with everything that our marketing team is doing has been a game changer for us. So.
That's awesome, Kayla. And Ben, I want to circle back to you because you kind of talked about this shifting the mix from analog to more digital. Used to be with analog and still is. You kind of are invested once you start. I mean, you drop the direct mail, it's dropped. You run the circular or the newspaper ad, it's in. This idea of being nimble and using analog where it makes sense, because I'm not saying never use analog, but where it makes sense to use analog versus how you can now adjust and be dynamic on digital, I think feeds into your point of looking at the mix and seeing what you can redirect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it's allowed us to do is to say, what does that mix look like for each campaign? So for instance, a home equity campaign for us might be targeted at maybe individuals that likely have kids, and we think they could be highly likely to want to do debt consolidation, right? And so now, do we really want to capture that group? So we are going to do direct mail. And so an example of what that starts to look like when you implement this into your full marketing tech stack is the client in the morning, when they get to work, they get an email that has an offer that they have. When they go to lunch and they check their balance before they, pay for everybody's lunch, they're going to see a digital ad. Mm-hmm. When they get home at night, they're going to get a direct mail card in the mail. And then later that night, they're actually going to log into their online platform, because that might be a little more robust than working off of their app. And they've got, the larger ad. And then they're like, you know what, I'm going to do a little travel planning. And they go off into the other websites, and all of a sudden they see our ad for home equity. And that's one where we can be, hit all of these channels. Or on the flip side, we've done other campaigns where we just say, you know what, we just really want to talk about getting clients to set up junior savings accounts for their kids. And all we're doing is pushing digital on that, because the economics of doing this full campaign don't make sense. And what's exciting is not only can you start weaving in a stronger, more targeted approach for the campaign you want to run and the results you want, but then you can start to see on a daily basis the results that are coming through to decide. And one of the cool things with using a lot of the digital solutions is you can start doing A/B testing much easier than you ever could before, certainly with analog. You can react quickly and make changes. And I would also add one other thing that I think gets lost in some of this is previously, when you think about some of the needs a bank has, we need to grow our non-interest income. We need to grow our interchange income, for instance. We probably would not do a full analog campaign to go out and say, who is using subscription services, and we got to get them using our credit card for the interchange opportunities. And so now with this digital solution, we can go in and we can say, oh, look at that, they have Apple Plus, but they don't have other subscriptions. I'm going to guess they've got other subscription services. So if they're already using one, we can do this email/digital campaign to focus on gathering more of the subscription services coming through our card as top of wallet. Or honestly, maybe they have zero subscription services and we want to go ahead and make a change. Or maybe they're using Venmo and PayPal and they're doing direct ACH, And A, that's a deposit opportunity. Back to, I think Alicia talked about the disintermediary of deposits, but also can we put our debit card in there so then we get interchange, and now we get a 2-for-1 off of doing something like that. And it's all very strategic and goal oriented for what the bank wants. That's very specific and very trackable and very, very focused on the clients as well. Let's not forget about that for a second, right? We're not trying to talk to somebody that's not doing subscription. We're talking about somebody that does subscription services and understands it, and they're going to understand the message that we're trying to communicate to them.
I love it, Ben. That is awesome. I want to bring Alicia and Kayla into this question, just a jump ball here. One thing that we do here, and I've heard this since, 15 years ago when we first started using data to inform marketing decisions, albeit more primitive back then for sure, is this notion of, will people find this to be creepy? Will consumers find it to be creepy? Will, especially boomers, as an example, some of the older generations who are now passing on their generational wealth to younger generations like millennials and Gen Z, how will boomers react to this? Because we know millennials and Gen Z don't just want this. They literally expect this from us. But boomers, maybe, not as much. How do you all manage that in your respective financial institutions? Because you have a changing demographic happening right now. How are you leveraging this data? And do you find that your customers or members have come back with a reaction either way of, do you hear the negatives on this? Is there something we need to be cautious of here as we think about the execution? Alicia, I'm going to go to you.
There's a little feedback, but not much. And I can share with you, I've purchased any number of shoes from Nordstrom because there it was. It was like a squirrel moment when I'm somewhere else. I'm like, oh, those are actually the shoes I want. That freaks me out more than anything. But at the price I want to pay, if you get the right product to the right person at the right time at the right price, they're going to buy. They're going to be grateful for the opportunity. We're all so busy. And what we're really trying to do is help our members or customers. And we help them by getting them what they need when they need it and letting them know we can help them. So the more targeted we can be, I think the more effective we are. I mentioned that trial deposits earlier. We just received that information. We just launched that interstitial page introducing our wealth team. And we had a member this week call and they said, hey, I'm kind of stuck in this ad. I don't know what's happening. And so we worked with them, but they also said, hey, can you help me make an appointment with them? I mean, this was just this week and we introduced it last week. We got it approved. If you get the right message to the right person, they will, at the very least, just benefit from the knowledge and information that you can help them. And you're here when they need you. So we don't hear very much of, I don't want to hear this or take me off your list. I get that more from direct mail. Stop sending me stuff. Okay, all right, I can stop sending you stuff. But those same people will call us a couple months later. How come you didn't tell me about this? Well, because you told me to stop sending you stuff. So make up your mind. But with that stated, the more targeted, the more we use that information to provide the right information to the right member, I think the more effective we are and the less you will hear. At least in my experience, that's what we have seen here.
Thank you, Alicia. Kayla, curious on your end, any noise or what are you getting as response from the customers that you're engaging in this way?
Well, it's funny, the direct mail being the piece that customers might call and say, don't do that anymore. Because it's apparent that the bank did that, right? They mailed that out. But with the digital advertising, they're so attuned to it, right? Like that they're getting digital ads as they're scrolling through different websites and that. So they don't realize that, it was someone at the bank that put that in front of them at the time. So there's a little more obscurity to it, I guess, in that regard. But, I mentioned in the campaign that I talked about earlier, how we incorporated that data into our core for our retail staff to be able to see it and use it in call planning. So we were very strategic about the training that we did around that to make sure that, one, they're not just saying, oh, hey, I see you have all these competitor credit cards. They don't do that. Yeah. Instead, they use that data to, identify possible needs, create open-ended discovery questions around how to get the customer to talk about those cards. So maybe it's something like, what are your financial goals this year? What's keeping you up at night financially? Like, what problems are you having that I can help you with, but knowing that they're armed with this information. So we were just very careful about making sure that they understood how to use that data when they were using it for outbound calling efforts. But I mean, as far as like the data or the, digital ads go, I think we're pretty safe in that area as far as how customers perceive it. So.
Ben, curious to get you to weigh in on this, just because I know this is a topic that comes up, and it's regardless of if you use this tool or anything else, it's about the use of data to better target and to better understand what your customers and members are doing. Do you find that the sell might be more challenging internally on a topic like this, around having other members in the FI and the C-suite understand that this data is anonymized, it's cleansed, it's based on behaviors, not demographics? I mean, based on your actually selling something like this inside, do you find that maybe your bigger resistance is just getting the institution to understand that this is actually how your customers and members increasingly expect you to engage with them?
I think that there's a little bit of that. And what's interesting is it's not hard to find studies that say people want their bank to understand their needs and share products and solutions that help them be more prosperous, for lack of a better way to say that, right? So I think there's a little bit of a sales point there, but I think we also have to remember the people that have a big concern about this are a very, very, very small minority overall, right? We're just going to have a difference of opinion on that. And I don't think we can get lost in that, because I'm willing to bet we as banks and with our credit union friends as well, we are not putting out creepy material that's saying, hey, Allison, I noticed you were in Vegas and then you were in Mexico. What are you doing? Like, no, we're trying to help people with saving for retirement and saving for college and consolidating debt. I think the quality of the material we put out supersedes that. And furthermore, I think it's funny because if anything, we probably honestly really have to think more about is, are we bombarding our clients with too many messages? So either A, we're annoying, or B, we're no longer relevant because now there's too much noise. I think that's when we wrap this conversation up, that's really the message we have to think thoughtfully about is, are they in too many campaigns and is it too much? And because we also have to remember, clients don't understand financial services either, right? So what we think resonates, I'm not sure it always does either, right? We're a $3 billion bank with 20 branches, and I had a friend of mine say, "Do you guys do consumer checking accounts?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, well, how are we marketing to?" And they just don't know. It's not a reflection on us; it's a reflection on the average consumer having zero idea about how financial services works.
Absolutely.
So let's educate them.
And Ben, you made a really, really great point that I want to jump off of, which is it's more about the proper utilization of the technology, as with anything, making sure it's being utilized and then making sure it's being utilized effectively and with the right intent that you aspired it to be used for. So with that, we've talked a little bit about the client success manager, because we do, as part of this technology, give you a client success manager for that very purpose, to help you. Alicia, you mentioned it. There's a lot of data you have, and there's a lot of overwhelming sometimes of, how do I harness this? How do I create campaigns? How do I, Ben, to your point, make sure I'm not creating noise or being a nuisance? How have you all found that engagement to be? So this really is productive for your institution, for your marketers are actually using it, and it's not just sitting on a shelf. That's a jump ball. Alicia, let's start with you.
Well, our client service manager has been so instrumental in our usage of the system. When Ben talked about having too many campaigns, we have that conversation frequently. And last year, we turned off the majority of the lending campaigns because of the dire need for deposits. At one point, Sarah said, "I know you still need deposits, but are you only focused on deposits? Are you also focused on lending? Maybe it's time to reallocate some of the weighting on some of the different KLIs that you have in motion." And it was great to have that conversation, to take a step back and to be able to make some of those changes. So we're able to prioritize within the system, but also just the feedback she's able to provide. And asking her, "I'm thinking about this. I want to know more about that. What do you think about this?" I've been able to share information. I told you I sent some money to Capital One. It's back now. It's back home here. But when I sent it, I said, "This is what it looked like. And this is what it looked like leaving. Where does this show up in your KLI? You just watched a chunk leave. This is how it left. Help me find it so that we can target other people like me doing things like this. Being able to have those conversations with her and the expertise that she provides our organization is wonderful. She's like our unpaid salesperson, or our unpaid data scientist is really what she is. She's like, if you ever have a question, just give me a call. So that partnership is incredible, and it's been very beneficial to our organization.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. We see them as an extension of your team. Ben?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to jump right in on that because, like Alicia said, they're a part of the team, really. And that was a surprise to us when we initially rolled out the solution. It didn't take us long to feel like Lori was basically another person of our marketing team. And when you think about this digital transformation, we're learning a lot as we go, and how to evaluate the results, and there'd be times where we weren't getting the results, and she'd remind us the sales cycle is longer for this product, or guys, you're not getting your results. The sales cycle is much faster. What are we going to change? How are we going to modify some of this? And that global look to help us understand how we're best utilizing the system, making it more relevant, making it ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to make us more profitable, right? And that's a gigantic, huge add-on. And I bet you everybody that's listening to this would say, I would love another person on my marketing team.
I think you're right. I've never heard somebody say I have too many. I'm good.
Exactly.
I'm good. Well, this has been really fruitful. I want to end with one question, if we can, as a wrap up. We always wish we had the benefit of hindsight. And there are a lot of people listening to this today that they don't have this tool. They're maybe thinking about their data and marketing strategy going into next year. What piece of wisdom would you give them based on what you wish you had known a year ago, when maybe some of you were starting this journey, or a little longer? What would you like to give this audience to take with them? Kayla, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. For us, I would say is, that real-time results and reporting on the success of campaigns is really important in order to get the best performance out of your marketing and sales efforts, as well as being able to set up campaigns where the audience is always changing based on their transactional data and behaviors, and being able to meet our customers in the right place at the right time. That part has just really been a game changer for us.
That's awesome. Ben?
Yeah, we went through a merger earlier this year and changed cores. And so now we have to, we're rebuilding the system back with a new core. And I think my big learning is that we have so many people in the bank that are not engaged in digital transformation or the marketing tech stack or applying and utilizing these solutions. My big aha was you need to keep selling people on the benefit, the value, what it means to other departments, how other departments can use it, how we can ingest data in to our marketing tech stack to make all of this more relevant. And I think the better we do that, the better. It's not so much the buy-in we get, it's how we better leverage our systems to make us basically more successful at the end of the day.
Love it, Ben. Alicia?
From my perspective, again, my title is Chief Growth Officer. I have marketing and sales, contact center, wealth advisors, business intelligence, all of these areas that roll up. And I can tell you this technology touches all of those different areas. And it's just been an amazing find. But also remember, when you're going to implement, when you have that ROI calculation, include your finance team right away. This ROI calculation is determined by Alkami with a lot of different pieces in place, but invite them in right away. You want them to buy in, include them in the process. This is your profitability is determined by your finance team. So they own it. Don't fight for your version of it. Work with them to utilize their version of it. In our MCIF, which we still use, we have integrator, we actually pay more to input our profitability so that it mirrors what our CFO needs it to mirror. So using all of these different systems and using it in multiple different ways will make you successful. Make sure all of your tech plays well together. We spend a lot of time using acronyms. My favorite sometimes is the UCIC. When we looked at that trial deposit, we pulled the list, and right away I asked our marketing team, find me this, match this UCIC to this member so we can communicate in multiple different ways. We upload it into Next, which is our referral software. It presents referrals to the front line, as Kayla was talking about. rather than telling a teller, hey, you got to refer a product, and they don't know, they're 18, 19, 20, they don't know anything about mortgages, but you give them a little bit of information, knowledge, just to be able to help the member save some money, make some more money, or have added convenience. It will make them that much more successful. And having the targeted information, being able to say, this is happening. I'm not guessing this is happening. This is happening. Let me show you the data. This is happening. Now, what are we going to do, or how are we going to use this data? It just becomes that much more valuable to your organization. And prior to this type of technology, unless you had maybe you were a giant organization with a high level of data cleansing, we did used to pull members that had client or relationships elsewhere at Wells Fargo. And we would get a fraction of the number of members that actually qualified for our messaging. So being able to utilize this will make you that much more effective and that much more efficient, and you'll be able to present the results in real time. So it's technology like I haven't seen before. I was really excited when I saw it. I was excited to get our CFO on board right away so that we could begin to utilize this and really benefit from it. So it's been a great process along the way, and it's been really exciting.
Alicia, thank you. Ben, thank you. Kayla, thank you. Thank you first and foremost for your time today. Each of you could teach a masterclass on how to evolve and transform marketing in your organizations to being a new category of growth marketers, unlike anything we've seen before in your space. So thank you for that. Thank you for trusting Alkami. As customers of Alkami, we can't thank you enough for the business that you give us every day and the honor and the privilege to serve you and your institution. For those of you watching, we have here a QR code. We have more things you can scan to get more information about this topic. If you're interested, please scan the materials, download it, educate yourselves, let us know how we can help you. And in the meantime, I just want to thank you for joining us today. And thank you again, Alicia, Ben, and Kayla, for the phenomenal insights. This was like group therapy, and I walked away smarter than when I came in here a few minutes ago. So thank you all for imparting your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you all for joining. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.